Let's start our class by reciting Namo Tassa 3 times. Namo Tassa Bhagavato Arahato Samma Sambuddhassa. Namo Tassa Bhagavato Arahato Samma Sambuddhassa. Namo Tassa Bhagavato Arahato Samma Sambuddhassa. Good morning, everyone. Today we are going to start about the objects. That's lesson 2 of chapter 3. We have started chapter 3, Pakiṇṇakaparicchedo, miscellaneous chapter. Last time we have done 3 sections. There are 6 sections in chapter 3. What are them? In Pali, Vedana, Hetu, Kicca, Dvara, Ārammaṇa and Vattu. Vedana means feeling. Hetu, roots. Kicca, functions. Dvara, doors. Ārammaṇa, objects. Vattu, bases. Last time we have done 3 sections. Feeling, roots and functions. Among those 3 sections, we have already done feelings and roots in previous lessons, previous chapters. Last time the new one was functions. So we have learned 14 functions. Please review those lessons. Today we are going to discuss objects. Here, first we should know what are the objects. Then, what are the chittas that take those objects specifically. Therefore, first we have to define what are the objects. Then we classify the chittas with regards to their objects. In this chapter, this is the most important section. This is very, very important when we are going to next lessons. As we have discussed, Abhidhamma is like a chain. So they are connected. Lessons are connected each other. They are interrelated. Therefore, this lesson is very, very important throughout the Abhidhamma teaching. It is a little bit difficult, but please try to digest. When you are learning Citta Viti and Patthana, this is very, very important, this knowledge. So let's move into our main topic today. Objects in Pali we call Ārammaṇa. So there are 2 terminologies used for objects in our canonical texts and commentaries. What are them? Ārammaṇa and ālambana. What's the meaning of Ārammaṇa? In Pali we call A prefix and Ramu. Ramu is the root. The meaning Ramu means delight. Here means Ārammaṇa means something where chittas and cetasikas delight. This mostly used can be applicable for Lobhamula chittas, but it's a interpretation given in our books. The next one, ālambana. A is the prefix, then lamb means hang or hold. hang on or hold on. That means there is a simile given in the commentaries. When a weak person or old one want to walk, they use some stick. Without that stick, they hold on that stick. Hold and they put their steps one by one. Similarly, those objects hang on chitta cetasika, mind and mental factors. Or we can say in another way, mind and mental factors hang on those objects. Therefore, this interpretation is more applicable and more suitable with all the chittas. However, we will use these two interpretations, Ārammaṇa and Ālambana, but usually we almost use Ārammaṇa. These are the interpretations given in the commentaries according to the Pali grammar. Now let's pay attention. What are the objects? Usually there are 6 objects explained in the Buddhist teaching. What are them? In Pali we call Rupa, Saddha, Gandha, Rasa, Pottabha and Dhamma. These are very common teaching. Rupa means visible object or visible form. What we are seeing when we see the visible form, colors or whatever, visible forms. This is one, the group, the first type. Then sound, Saddha. Next one, smell, Gandha. Next one, taste, Rasa. When we are eating, we feel various type of taste. Then touch. Actually, there are only 3 great elements included in touch or Pottabha. As you know, there are 4 great elements: Patavi, Apo, Tejo and Vayu. Earth element, water element, fire element and air element. Here, for Pottabha, we take only 3 elements. They are earth element and fire element and air element. Patavi, Tejo and Vayu. We will learn the reasons later on, because we classify matters into 2 groups: gross matters and subtle matters. In Pali, Olarika Rupa and Sukma Rupa. Earth element, fire element and air elements are included in gross. Water element is included in subtle rupas, subtle matters. Therefore, here we take only 3 great elements: earth element, fire element and air element. In chapter 6, we will learn about materiality in detail. For this lesson, just take it note in brief. So, touch or Pottabha means 3 elements: Patavi, Tejo and Vayu. Earth element, fire element and air element. And also we call Dhamma objects. Usually some scholars translate this term as mental objects, but some Abhidhamma scholars, especially Sayadaw U Sīlānanda, translated this term, remain this term as Dhamma object. So let's repeat again. How many objects? There are 6 objects: Rupa, Saddha, Gandha, Rasa, Pottabha and Dhamma. Visible form, sound, smell, taste, tangible object or touch or Dhamma object. Those are the 6 elements. Now let's classify those elements, the Dhamma elements, into 6 classes. What are them? Sensitive matter, subtle matter, mind, mental factors, Nibbana, and concepts. We can classify into various methods, but according to Abhidhammattha Saṅgaha, this is the way how classified Dhamma objects or Dhamma Ārammaṇa. Sensitive matter, in Pali we call Pasada Rupa. Eye sensitivity, ear sensitivity, nose sensitivity, tongue sensitivity, and body sensitivity. In Pali, Chakku Pasada, Sota Pasada, Ghana Pasada, Jiva Pasada, Kaya Pasada. Chakku Pasada means eye sensitivity. That's the sensitive area for the light or for the visible forms. In biological sense, we say maybe sensitive cells for the light or retina, but however, we can't compare biology with those Abhidhamma teachings exactly. So what Buddha has explained, there is a sensitivity that's there is sensitivity which is which takes the object, the visible object, which takes the visible objects or visible forms. It is sensitive that stands for only visible objects. It was produced by the karma. We will learn in detail in chapter 6, chapter of materiality or Rupa Paricceda. Here just pay attention for these things, or in the next lesson, we will learn also about the bases. In the bases, we will learn about these matters in detail. Just pay attention. Those are sensitivity matters, 5 sensitivity matters, ear sensitivity, eye sensitivity, ear sensitivity, nose sensitivity, tongue sensitivity, and body sensitivity. Also, materiality is divided into 2 sections. There are various types of classifications. So, according to these 2 types of classification, we classify material into 2, gross matter and subtle matter. There are 12 rupas are gross, 16 rupas are subtle. So in the Dhamma objects, subtle matters are included in the Dhamma objects. How many? There are 16 subtle matters. Then Chitta, mind. We have already learned 89 or 121. Cetasika, mental factors, how many? There are 50. Then Nibbana, concepts. And concepts in Pali, Paññatti. Those are the Dhamma objects. Then also we classify matters according to the time, based on the time. Present objects, past object, future objects, time-free or independent of time. For example, when we are seeing something now, we call it present object. We hear those sounds are present objects. What we have seen yesterday or today morning, a few days ago, or a few months ago, those objects are past. Something will happen in future. So those objects are future. What are the time free? Actually, according to Abhidhammic teaching, Nibbana is called as time-free object, independent of time. Kala Vimutta. In Pali we call Kala Vimutta. Okay. Now, So here this teaching is very important when we are learning Chitta Viti, cognitive process. So in the cognitive process, we will learn present cognitive process, past. Therefore, here we just learn in brief, present, past, future, and time free. But when you are coming to the cognitive process, we will discuss about these objects and how cognitive process occurs according to those type of objects. Okay, let's move into the classification of the objects. First, we pay attention for Dvipancha Viññāna, to ear consciousness, to eye consciousness, to ear consciousness, to nose consciousness, to tongue consciousness, to body consciousness. Ear consciousness means the chittas by which we see. When you are seeing, eye consciousness can take only present visible object. I'll repeat again. Eye consciousness can take only present visible object. When we are listening, that means ear consciousness arises. At that time, ear consciousness can take only present sound object. Then when we feel some smell, nose consciousness arises. At that time, it can take only present small object. Present smell object. Then tongue consciousness. When we eat something, we feel taste. At that time, the knowing of the taste is called as tongue consciousness. There are many chittas arise when we will learn later on with the cognitive process. The chittas that take the taste object, which is called tongue consciousness. Tongue consciousness can take only present taste object. For example, when we are eating something, at that time we feel the taste. After that, we can reflect or we can contemplate about it, even though we cannot take the taste later on or before. It feels when we eat something, food. Then body consciousness takes present tangible object. I think you can remember, we call Pottabba. What are them? There are three: Patavi, Tejo, and Vayu. Earth element, fire element, and air element. That means we feel hardness, softness. Sometimes we feel cold or heat. Sometimes we feel the pushing nature or moving in our body, inside or outside. That's how we feel body consciousness. We have already discussed this consciousness in chapter 1, Citta-Paricceda, chapter of consciousness. Here, we pay attention for the objects. Eye consciousness takes only present visible object. Ear consciousness takes only present sound object. Nose consciousness takes only present smell object. Tongue consciousness takes only present taste object. Body consciousness takes only present tangible object, that are Patavi, Tejo, and Vayu. Next one. Chittas for 5 present objects. Here I think you can remember the simile of the mango. We always discuss eating mango. When someone is sleeping under the mango tree, one ripened fruit fallen down, Then he turned towards that object. So that is Panchadvara Vajjana, like Panchadvara Vajjana. 5 sense adverting consciousness. Then after that, what happened? He look at and receive the mango. Like similarly, there is a consciousness that receive the object, received by 5 type of consciousness. That is we call in Pali. Can you remember Pali term? Sampatichana. How many Sampatichana chittas? There are 2 Sampatichana chittas. Yes, I have already mentioned. There are 2 Sampatichana chittas. Altogether, how many? Panchadvara Vajjana 1, Sampatichana 2. When we see visible object, Panchadvara Vajjana take visible form. Listening sound, it takes sound. Smelling, smell object. Tasting, taste object. Feeling tangible objects, at that time, tangible objects. Therefore, those 3 chittas. Please try to memorize this term also. We name these chittas Manodhatu. 3 Manodhatu. What are them? Panchadvara Vajjana and 2 Sampatichana. 5 sense adverting consciousness and 2 receiving consciousness are termed Manodhatu. These 3 chittas takes only 5 present objects. Rupa, Saddha, Gandha, Rasa, Pottabha. Visible form, sound, smell, taste, and tangible objects. Only present objects. It's not difficult. Now let's move into the Kamavachara. Little pay attention. However, these objects are also included in Kamavachara. First, I will, before going to Kamavachara, let's define what is Kamavachara. Kamavachara means Kamavachara chittas, cetasikas and rupa. Kamavachara objects. How many Kamavachara chittas? Sense sphere consciousness? 54. Cetasika, associated cetasikas, 52. And rupa, how many? Materiality, 28. So those objects are called as Kamavachara objects. These 5 present objects are also included in Kamavachara objects, sense sphere objects. But they have limited access. Eye consciousness has access to only present visible object. These Manodhatu chittas have the access to only 5 present objects. Now we are going to learn what are the chittas that have access for all the Kamavachara objects. Can you remember? After Sampatichana, we learn Santirana, investigating consciousness. How many investigating consciousness? There are 3. And smile producing consciousness. What is the name for smile producing in Pali? Asituppada. Smile producing consciousness and sense sphere, beautiful result, consciousness. How many? 8. 8 Mahavipaka. Santirana 3, Asituppada 1, Mahavipaka 8, altogether 12. So these 12 chittas can take all the Kāmāvacara objects. Kāmāvacara objects mean 54 Kāmāvacara chittas and 52 associated cetasikas and 28 rupas. Those are the Kāmāvacara objects. So these 12 chittas, 3 Santirana, 1 Asituppāda and Mahavipāka can take all the Kāmāvacara objects. They do not have limitation. But previous chittas had limitation. Okay, let's summarize the chittas for Kāmāvacara objects. Dipancha Viññāna 10. Dipancha Viññāna means to Chakku Viññāna, to Sota Viññāna, to Gahana Viññāna, to Jiva Viññāna, to Kaya Viññāna. They have specific object with their relevant bases. Visible form, present visible form, sound, smell, taste, and tangible object. Then Manodhatu. 3 Manodhatu chittas takes present 5 objects. Then Santirana Hasuppada and Mahavipāka takes Kāmāvacara objects. Altogether how many? 25 chittas. Therefore we call these 25 chittas takes Kāmāvacara objects. But we have to see the differentiate. What are the specific objects of Dipancha Viññāna? What are the specific objects of Manodhatu? For Santirana Hasuppada and Mahavipāka, we don't want to specify. We can say generally Kāmāvacara. In all Kāmāvacara. So these are the 25 chittas that takes Kāmāvacara objects. Now let's move into the next group. Chittas for except Lokuttara objects. You know, Lokuttara is the most important object. Lokuttara what means? What are the Lokuttara mean? Lokuttara means Nibbana and Maggaphala. Akusala cannot take Lokuttara objects. How many unwholesome consciousness? There are 12 unwholesome consciousness. Those 12 unwholesome consciousness cannot take Lokuttara objects, supramundane objects. They can take other objects except Lokuttara. So unwholesome consciousness, 12. What are them? 8 Lova Mula, 2 Dosa Mula and 2 Moha Mula. Those consciousness can take the objects except Lokuttara. They can take Kāmāvacara, Rūpāvacara and Arūpāvacara, but not Lokuttara. For example, when we attach to visible form, at that time, Lobhacitta takes visible form. Or when we attach to our wholesome actions, at that time, Lobhamula Citta takes object of wholesome chittas. Sometimes when someone gets angry or be jealous with others' knowledge or wisdom, at that time, Dosamula Citta takes others the object of wisdom. So similarly, we can think in various ways. But Lomula Chitta or Dodumula Chitta or Mohumula Chitta cannot take Lokuttara objects. They do not have access. Then Kamavachara Sobhana, Jnana Vipayutta Kusala. Jnana Vipayutta Chittas cannot take Lokuttara objects because they do not have wisdom. Next one, Kamavachara Sobhana, Jnana Vipayutta Kiriya. Those four chittas cannot take Lokuttara objects. Altogether, how many? 12 plus 4 plus 4, 20. What are the objects of these 20 chittas? 81 Lokiya chittas, 52 associated chetasikas, 28 rupas, and concepts, paññatti. What are the objects of these 20 chittas? 81 Lokiya chittas, associated 52 chetasikas, 28 rupas, and concepts, paññatti. Now let's move into next group. Chittas for except Arahatta Magga and Phala. There are 5 chittas that can take all the objects, all mean except Arahatta Magga and Phala. Because Arahatta Magga and Phala can be focused or can be taken by only Arahants because they have attained it. Without attainment of Arahatta Magga and Phala, even noble ones, Sotapanna, Sakadagami, Anagami, stream enterer, once returner, and non-returner cannot take the objects of Arahatta Magga and Phala. Here there are 5 chittas. What are them? Jnana Sampayutta Kusala. How many? 4. Then Kusala Abhiññā. Abhiññā means the 5th jhana Abhiññā chitta. But everyone cannot take Arahatam, everyone cannot take remaining objects. Let's explain in detail. 4 Jnana Sampayutta Kusala chitta arising ordinary person, Putujjana. Sotapanna, Sakadagami, and Anagami. Stream enterer, once returner, and non-returner. For Kusala Chitta also arise for other animals also. Here, just we will take the human and noble ones. Then what are the objects of these 5 chittas? 87 chittas, except Arahatta Magga and Arahatta Phala. Then 52 chetasikas, associated 52 chetasikas, 28 rupas, Nibbana and Paññatti concepts. Let's think about we as ordinary person, we have Jnana Sampayutta Kusala chittas, but can we take the object of Nibbana? We cannot. Nibbana can be really taken, actually taken by the noble ones because they have realized, they have seen the object of Nibbana object. If so, when we make some aspiration because of this wholesome deed, may I attain Nibbana? That's not a real Nibbana. That's the we call the conceptualization. Concept of Nibbana. Nibbana can be taken as objects by the person, those who have seen Nibbana, those who have realized Nibbana. Therefore, this is related to the only Ariyas, noble ones, not for ordinary person, not for Putujjana. For also noble one. Sotapanna can take object of the Sotapatti Magga or Sotapatti Phala, not the Sakadaga. Those who attain Sakadagami, they can take object of Sotapatti and Sakadagami. Those who takes object of Anagami, they can take subject of Anagami Maggaphala, Sakadagami Maggaphala, and Sotapanna Maggaphala. So what are the functions of Abhinya Chittas? So there are various types of Abhinyas, especially we say sometimes 5 types, 5, 6 and 7 also. Iddhivida Abhinya means producing same as own figure. Then Chetopari or Parachitta Vijnana means reading others' mind. Here we usually take this Chetopari or Parachitta Vijnana Abhinya, reading mind. For example, when Sotapanna can read others' mind, he can read only Sotapatti Magga and Phala of others, not Sakadaga. Sakadagami can read others, Sotapanna and Sakadagami mind. Anagami can read others, Sotapanna, Sakadagami and Anagami mind, not the Arahats. So we have to memorize these 4 Jnana Sampita Kusala Chittas and Kusala Abhinya Chitta can take objects, all the objects except Arahatta Magga and Phala. Then we are going to learn the Chittas that takes all the objects. What are them? There are 6. 4 Kamavachara Jnana Sampita Kriya Chitta. Then Abhinya Kriya and Vottabhana, mind-adverting consciousness. Altogether 6. I will repeat again. There are 6 Chittas that can take all the objects. What are these Chittas? 4 Kamavachara Jnana Sampita Kriya Chittas. Abhinya Kriya Chitta and Vottabhana or mind-adverting consciousness. Those 6 Chittas can take all the objects. What are all the objects mean? 89 Chittas, 52 Cetasikas, 28 Rupas, Nibbana and Panya. We know Kriya Chittas arise in Arahants. Here, actually all the objects pertaining to the Buddha. Buddha is the only one who can take all the objects, who can know everything. We call Sabbanyuta Jnana. Yes, something construction is going on, I think a little bit interrupting with our sound. However, we'll try to continue. So there are 6 Chittas which can take the objects, it can take all the objects. I will use microphone, please. there are 6 chittas that can take all the objects. What are they? 4 Jnana Sampayutta Kamavachara Kiriya Chitta, 1 Abhiññā Kiriya Chitta, and Vottabhana Chitta. They can take all the objects, 89 chittas, 52 associated cetasikas, 28 rupas, Nibbana and Paññatti. For all the objects, we take Buddha's omniscient knowledge, Sabbanyuta Jnana. That's also Kamavachara Jnana Sampayutta Kiriya Chitta. The wisdom of the Kamavachara Jnana Sampayutta Kiriya. So we have to memorize this group as the chittas that can take all the objects. How many? 6. Then chittas for only sublime objects. Sublime means in Pali Mahaggata. Can you remember Mahaggata? What are the meaning of Mahaggata? In the chapter 1 we learn Kamavachara, Rupavachara, Arupavachara, Lokuttara. So we call Rupavachara and Arupavachara. The another term is Mahaggata. Here sublime objects means Mahaggata objects or Rupavachara and Arupavachara objects. But here, with regards to chittas, we take only Arupavachara objects. Please review our memory to chapter 1. How many Arupavachara chittas? Altogether 12 Arupavachara chittas. 4 Kusala, 4 Vipaka, 4 Kiriya, but in namely, how many? 4. Akasananchayatana, Viññānañchayatana, Akinchanyayatana, and Neva Saññāna Saññāyatana. Akasananchayatana chitta can take only Akasananchayatana chitta can take the object of the infinite space. Then Viññānañchayatana chitta takes infinite consciousness. Third one, Akinchanyayatana chitta takes the object of nothingness. Nothingness of first Arupavachara chitta. Fourth Arupavachara chitta, Neva Saññā Nasaññāyatana chitta takes the third Arupavachara chitta. Here, among those Arupavachara chittas, second Arupavachara chitta takes object of first Arupavachara chitta. Therefore, object is sublime or Mahaggata. Fourth Arupavachara chitta takes object fourth Arupavachara chitta takes object of third Arupavachara chitta. So, object of these chittas are sublime. I will repeat again. Object of second Arupavachara chitta is first Arupavachara chitta. Object of fourth Arupavachara chitta is third Arupavachara chitta. So these two chittas takes sublime objects, only sublime objects. So altogether how many chittas? Arupavachara Kusala, second Arupavachara Kusala Vipaka Kiriya, 3. Fourth Arupavachara Kusala Vipaka Kiriya, 3. Altogether 6. Therefore these 6 chittas takes only Mahaggata objects. Vijñānaṁ Chayatana 3 and Neva Saññāyatana 3 take only sublime objects, Mahagata objects. So it's not difficult. These 6 chittas takes only sublime objects, so Mahagata. Now let's move into the concepts. Chittas that takes only Paññatti as the objects. What are they? We have learned there are 15 Rupavachara Chittas, form sphere consciousness. Rupavachara Kusala 5, Rupavachara Vipaka 5, Rupavachara Kriya 5. Altogether, there are 15 Rupavachara Chittas. Then first Arupavachara Chitta, Akasaṇaṁ Chayatana. What is the object of Akasaṇaṁ Chayatana? Infinite space. That is concept. Then what is the object of Akicaññāyatana Chitta? Nothingness of the first Arupavachara Chitta. So nothingness is not a reality. That's a concept. How many chittas that can take concept as the objects? There are 15. 15 Rupavachara Chittas, 3 Akasaṇaṁ Chayatana, 3 Akiññāyatana, altogether 6. These 21, altogether 21, 15 plus 6. These 21 Chittas can take only Paññatti objects, only objects of concepts, only conceptual objects. We will learn what are the conceptual objects in detail when we are going to learn meditation objects. Here just pay attention for Rupavachara Chittas. For example, when someone meditate on kasina, that's the kasina concept, kasina object. Or when someone meditate on ānāpāna, that's the concept of breathing and breathe out. And someone takes the foulness object, asubha, that's the concept. Also, someone develop loving kindness, appreciative joy, compassion, karuna mudita, metta karuna mudita. Those are the concepts. So that's why we call Rupavachara Chittas take only Paññatti objects, or only the concepts as the objects. Okay, let's move into the next one. Chittas that takes only Nibbana as the object. What are they? So we know it's obvious. 8 Lokuttara Chittas takes only Nibbana as the object. We can classify Lokuttara Chittas into 8 or 40. So we have learned in chapter 1. So Sotapatti Magga and Sotapatti Phala takes only Nibbana as the object. Sakadagami Magga and Sakadagami Phala takes only Nibbana as the object. Nagami Magga and Nagami Phala takes Nibbana as their only object. Arahatta Magga and Arahatta Phala takes Nibbana as their object only. So we have learned there are some chittas can take Nibbana as object, but they can take other objects. Can you remember? Jnana Sampavita Kusala, Jnana Sampavita Kriya also can take Nibbana as object. But here we take, the chittas takes only Nibbana as object. There are only Lokuttara Chittas. 8 Lokuttara Chittas takes Nibbana. They don't have any other objects. Their one and only object is Nibbana. Then next one, let's summarize. Let's summarize these all the objects. So we can summarize all objects into these groups. Number 1, all the objects. The next one, number 2, except Arahatta Magga and Phala. Number 2, except Arahatta Magga and Phala. Number 3, except Lokuttara. This is how I classify. This is how I memorize. You can use your own method. This is how I try to memorize this section. Then number 4, only Nibbana. Then number 5, only sublime objects. Then number 6, only concepts. Then number 7, Kamavachara objects. This is how I am trying to memorize these objects with regard to Chittas. Let's summarize again. So there are 6 Chittas that can take all the objects. What are them? 4 Jnana Sampitta Kiriya Chittas, Kiriya Abhiññā, and Manodvara Vajjana Chitta. Those 6 Chittas can take all the objects. Then group number 2, there are Chittas that can take the objects except Arahatta Magga and Phala. What are them? 4 Jnana Sampayutta Maha Kusala and Abhiññā Kusala Chitta. Those 5 Chittas can take all the objects except Arahatta Magga and Phala, and except Lokuttara. Group number 3, 12 Akusala Chittas and 4 Jnana Vipayutta Kusala and 4 Jnana Vipayutta Kiriya can take the objects except Lokuttara. How many? These 20 Chittas can take all the objects except Lokuttara. Then 8 Lokuttara Chitta takes Nibbana as only object. Then group number 5, 2 second Arupavachara and 4th Arupavachara. Viññānañcāyatana and Neva Saññā Nasaññāyatana Chittas. 3 Viññānañcāyatana and 3 Neva Saññā Nasaññāyatana Chittas can take only sublime objects, Mahagata objects. Then 21 Chittas can take only concepts as the object. What are they? 15 Rupavachara Chittas and 1st Arupavachara and 3rd Arupavachara. Ākāsānañcāyatana and Ākiññañcāyatana. 6. 15 plus 6, altogether 21. Then there are 25 Chittas that can take Kamavachara objects. So here we classify into respective numbers. 10 means the Pancha Viññāna. 2 Chakku Viññāna takes only present visible object. 2 Sota Viññāna takes only present sound object. 2 Gahana Viññāna takes only present smell object. 2 Jivha Viññāna takes only present taste object. 2 Kaya Viññāna takes only present tangible objects. So there are 10. After that, 3 means Manodhatu. Manodhatu means, can you remember? Panchadvara Vajjana and 2 Sampatichana takes only 5 present objects. Then here 3 means Santirana. Santirana Chitta 3 and Asituppada 1 and 8 Mahavipaka. These 12 Chittas can take all the Kamavachara objects. Altogether, how many? 25. So these 25 Chittas can take Kamavachara objects. So you have to memorize how many groups? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Please summarize this section into seven groups. All the objects except Arahatta Magga and Phala, except Lokuttara, only Nibbana, only sublime, only concepts and Kamavachara objects. So when you see this summary, please try to digest this section. So this is the most important section in this chapter. When we are learning Citta Viti, and when we are going to learn, especially deep in Abhidhamma, when we are going to canonical text, Dhammasangani, Dhatukata, Yamaka, Pathan, this section is very, very important. Therefore, please try to digest this section, object or classification of objects, analysis of objects. Sometimes it takes time. However, please try to digest this section. It will be much more beneficial for your further Abhidhamma studies. Today we have completed the lesson number 2, objects or Ārammaṇa in chapter 3. So let's share merits, all the deities and the beings and all the beings by reciting stanzas. Siddhatthālankāra sambatam punya sampadam sabbe devānumodantu sabba sampatti siddhya. Siddhatthālankāra sambatam punya sampadam sabbe bhūtānumodantu sabba sampatti siddhya. Siddhatthālankāra sambatam punya sampadam sabbe satthanumodantu sabba sampatti siddhya. Ākāsattha ca Bhummattha Theravāda Puññantam Anumodittva Ciran Rakkhantu Sambuddha Sāsanam. Ākāsattha ca Bhummattha Theravāda Puññantam Anumodittva Ciran Rakkhantu Sambuddha Desanam. Ākāsattha ca Bhummattha Theravāda Puññantam anumodittva ciran rakkhantu sambuddha sāvake ciran rakkhantu manghalam. Buddha sāsanam ciran tikkatu, Buddha sāsanam ciran tikkatu, Buddha sāsanam ciran tikkatu, sadhu sadhu sadhu.